What's up, everyone? I'm Nick Campo. This is Ashley Lapointe, and this is the Loan Guys podcast. This is our Building Wealth Through Real Estate series that we are doing every single Tuesday. We try to start by 9:30, but I was running a little bit late today. Ashley, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, thanks for coming.
It. I'm Ashley Lapointe, and I'm a real estate agent with Costello Real Estate, and I have a group called the Southern Agents.
The Southern Agents, I like that. We were actually going to name this podcast the High Cotton Podcast as an ode to the South, but I was told by several people not to do that. We started it 2 years ago. Myself and my business partner Ben are the co-founder of the company. We got a couple business partners now, but they were like, "Yeah, no, don't do that." I was like, "Why not?" They're like, "Well, first off, it's really regionalized, and outside of this region, nobody else will understand.
Won't know what it means.
They won't know what it means."
Yeah.
So we didn't do it. But I was like, well, I'm here in the Carolinas. I left upstate New York, came to college down here, played sports down here, started my business here, got into mortgage here when I was 21 years old. So I kind of wanted to give a little hat tip to the South because I contribute a lot of my success to it. And they were like, nope.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I like the Southern Agents. It's funny. At first they thought, okay, so you're just hiring people that are from the South. And
Right.
I'm like, no, we're selling the South, right?
Correct.
So I actually have agents on my team that are not from the South.
How many agents do you have?
So we have 5.
5. Okay, awesome. And big time producers. Mike talks very highly of you and your team. You mentioned earlier you have a podcast studio set up in your office. How do you like the podcast? Has it helped you bring in business? Do people see it? What is your idea behind yours?
Yeah, so it's definitely not mine. So,
Right.
But Winning Together is through Costello, and Steve Lonan, actually one of my colleagues, is the one who runs it. He does a phenomenal job just getting people in and just giving tips and things like that to other agents or people that are looking to get into real estate and answering questions people might have. And I just did one recently and got a ton of feedback on it on Instagram and Facebook.
So what is the theme? Is it just tips on real estate, buying houses? Does he have different guests?
It changes all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like us. We don't actually have a plan. A lot of people think, oh, you guys script out. Nope, we don't script anything. We sometimes we didn't even have a conversation prior to the
we didn't.
podcast.
I was just
so you're getting to see us know each other right now.
I was 10 p.m. Hey, Mike, what are we talking about?
Mike's had that happen a couple times with different guests that they'll reach out and they'll be like, hey, kind of want to know what we're talking about. And Mike's like, well, it just depends on what kind of mood Nick's in. So
there you go.
What's your main type of client your team works with? Is it primary residents, investors, second homes?
Yeah, we do mostly residential real estate,
Right.
Primary, and I do some vacation properties as well.
Okay.
I sell in the mountains.
Okay, awesome. What area? Highlands?
So, no, Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge, nice.
Yeah, Boone, Blowing Rock, Banner Elk.
It's blowing up there. Are you seeing the inventory issue there, here?
Well, it's been crazy, but obviously with interest rates,
right.
With secondary residents,
they
not quite as many people buying it. So this last year's been really slow on the secondary home market, whereas, COVID, oh my goodness, 2020 was crazy for secondary homes. I sold a ton at that time.
Well, one of the things, too, that we get a lot of pushback on when I'm talking to different clients and such is they're like, oh, well, the second home is less than an investment property interest rate wise. It's not anymore.
No.
About 2 or 3 years ago, the loan level pricing adjustment that was hitting the investment property, they put it on the second home as well. Yeah. And they're like, why? I was like, well, that's what kind of gives back to the community programs, for first time home buyers, or when they do the specific community programs and such, they take those loan level pricing adjustments from people buying second homes, and that's where they redistribute that. And people just did not understand it. And they also don't understand that a mortgage company doesn't make money off of that.
Yeah.
So we typically don't make money off of the interest rate at all. There's an origination charge, and then if you are correspondent, mini core, just like a Rocket Mortgage or something like that, you sell it on the secondary market, which everyone's like, oh, well, do you sell your mortgages? The answer to that question is yes. Everybody sells their mortgages because it's sold on the secondary market. The question that should be asked is, do you service them?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's two different things, but it's very interesting mentioning the interest rates, that people think we make more money because the interest rate's higher, and actually we make a lot less money.
I think what they're really concerned about is they're paying so much more money.
Right. Oh, it's brutal. It's
no matter where it goes. But one thing is that I try to educate people on that are looking to invest in secondary properties, even if it's just purely investment or if it's for a secondary home. North Carolina is a really good place to invest because the tax rate in South Carolina for secondary,
right,
it kills you. It's triple.
It is.
Triple.
It is. Well, in South Carolina, they want the whole thing behind that is they're creating an incentive for primary residents only, whereas North Carolina is okay with investment property. We actually have investment property in Kannapolis that we fell into. We brought Mike and another partner in on, and it's just, you can still make money in South Carolina, but
of course
you also have to look at that tax piece of it, and are you going to pass this on to the renter if it's a rental property or Airbnb, whatever, and is it going to be enough to make up the cost, and is it going to affect how many bookings you get or how many lease agreements? So very interesting. Have you ever owned any investment properties?
Yes, a lot.
How many?
I think it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 7.
7 investment.
It took me a minute just because I only have one now. So I've kind of just like flipped them around. But I started in 2008.
Why'd you sell them?
So in 2008, I bought a bunch because of the foreclosures. Awesome. So we had 3. We had 1 in Clover and 2 in Rock Hill.
Cool.
And we had those as long-term rentals.
Okay.
And I kick myself every day right now that I sold them. But at the same time, we sold them because at the time we had them for about 8 years.
Right.
And we just were like, hey, we want to enjoy our money a little bit. Like, still have it as an investment, property, but let's roll it into vacation property so that we can also use it.
Okay.
So that's really what we did. So then we ended up we had 2 properties in the mountains.
Nice.
One in Boone and 1 in Blowing Rock.
Cool.
And then we recently sold those. Yeah, you did. Which one did you stay in? Do you remember?
I don't remember. It's on the
side. Was it the log cabin?
It was the one on the side of a mountain.
Well, they were both on the side of the mountain.
Well, she just named 2 mountains.
You're probably right. You're probably near like the Ski Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we were.
That's really cool.
It was right there by the ski lift. You could walk to it.
So does the I'm guessing you Airbnb those.
Yes, we did.
So long-term versus short-term rentals, what do you like better?
Short-term.
Short-term?
Yes. I mean, long-term rentals, it just got very taxing to deal with the people living there.
Right.
We had crazy things happen. I could tell you so many funny stories.
Yeah, let's hear one.
Okay. Well, we had one in Rock Hill in Constitution Park. You probably know where that is.
Yep.
And they were like growing marijuana in the closet, and they kept calling us.
Did they at least share with you?
No, they kept calling us because they were like, hey, like I think they kept tripping the breaker.
Oh,
because they had this big lamp in the closet. Right? Too many lights. And so we would go out there like, okay, let's come out and check and see what's going on. My husband went out and he's like, oh, no wonder. You're like sitting here trying to grow this big lamp and it's plugged into, and it kept tripping the breaker.
Did he say anything to them when he saw it?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't know what to do. He called the cops. He's like, do I need to do anything? Like, I don't know if they're distributing it. I don't know what's happening.
Right.
And there's really nothing they could do if they weren't selling it. So.
Right. Crazy.
Yeah. So that happened.
What's the craziest?
I had people move out a month early, didn't pay their last month rent, and decided to try to take all my appliances with them on the way out. Washer, dryer, refrigerator, like everything. And someone on the HOA called me and said, hey, these people are leaving at like 11 p.m. at night, and I'm pretty sure those appliances are probably yours. Wow. So that just got,
How did you stop that from happening? Did you call the police?
We called them directly and just threatened them, and they ended up leaving the appliances.
And then they just didn't pay you, though.
They didn't pay me, though. I lost a month of rent. So.
Did you tell them you're going to go Chesterfield on them?
If I have to. But actually, my husband really managed all of our rental properties when we had long-term rentals. Thank God. I mean, he was meeting them at a truck stop at like 11 p.m. to pick up the check.
Oh, man.
It was always just an excuse of like, we can't pay, or we're running late. And it was just, I just got tired of I didn't want to deal with it.
Did you have to evict anyone?
And no, we had the one that we were going to evict that left, and left us high and dry for a month lease. But yeah, vacation properties, it's just a different clientele, right?
Right.
People are going on vacations. They're only there for a week, so normally they're going to take care of your property, and you don't have to continue that dynamic for a long term.
Right.
Because if you get a bad renter in there and they're in there for a year, you got to deal with it all the time.
We're doing so we bought a dilapidated property, Ben and I, and then that's the one up in Kannapolis that we brought Mike in and another business partner of ours, and we're doing room rentals to traveling nurses.
Oh, that's cool.
So we fixed up the whole property, added a bathroom for each bedroom, and then it'll be done in 3 months, but then we're gonna go room rentals. And Ben and I also have one down in Texas that we assumed the mortgage on. So, which it was great because it's like a 3.85% interest rate.
Yeah.
And so we're doing room rental there too. And there's a lot of industry there. So they have people come in for like 6 weeks at a time.
That's
so we
nice.
do like a 4-week minimum.
Yeah.
But I've wondered about Airbnb and vacation rentals. Is it more hospitality than it is, or what would you weigh the hospitality piece and what you have to deal with as far as making sure like clean sheets and
I think that's the hardest piece of running a vacation rental property, especially if you're not close by. I mean, we're like 2 hours away, but still it's really hard to make sure that you have a cleaning company you can trust. A lot of times, like places in the mountains have hot tubs.
Right.
They are so hard to deal with, and you have to have a hot tub company. So if someone doesn't show up, I mean, you're just like, oh my gosh, like I have to drive 2 hours and go clean this place, and we've had to do that a couple times. Just crazy things like that is that can make it really strenuous and difficult if you don't have a team. You need a team of people. You have to have a maintenance guy. You just have to have an electrician, everybody kind of on that you can call at the drop of a hat.
So knowing the local market, the local people is pretty big.
Oh, it's really big. And if you don't have that, it's especially in the mountains. I mean, it's really like people like local people there.
Right.
If you don't have that, it's important that you actually have probably a property management company to manage it.
Okay.
And we had just recently flipped over to using a property management company because it just got to be too much.
Right.
Because we had 3 at one time, and I was running my real estate business. I couldn't do all of it.
That's a lot.
So I sold those. I don't have my mountain properties anymore, but I do have a lake property.
Nice. Which lake?
On Lake Hartwell.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Lake Hartwell's
so
awesome.
Clemson, yeah. Have you stayed there?
No.
You haven't?
Nope.
Thought for sure you'd gone to a Clemson game or something.
I'm pretty sure I got a freebie down there sometime.
Did you hit record on the...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Come
Just
on,
checking.
We're still not sure if Mike knows what he's doing.
Oh, I don't. I'm like Stevie Wonder over here.
The fact that, I got to give him a shout out though, the fact that at his age he was able to figure this out is awesome. Yeah, it's not easy. Your generation is not as good with technology as my generation.
What is he trying to say? He's saying we're old.
No, not you. You're what, 27? He's 54. How old are you? I'm just kidding. I'm being serious though. Mike's done a really good job of picking up the slack on the podcast.
That's awesome.
If you're looking at long-term renter versus the hospitality portion, you much
more prefer short-term rentals.
How do you
you can also use it yourself. So it's fun buying a place that you want to visit. And then, hey, you can block your weeks out, and then the rest of the time you're making cash flow. Why not?
Right, 100%. And I'm with that. But the one thing for me, though, and I don't know, and I'm like this with hotels, and I'm like this when I stay in Airbnbs. I have to go to Charleston a lot because I have a lot of realtor partners down there. And I always, in my head, I'm like, oh, man, I got to stay in a bed someone else slept in.
Yeah, I know. That is the dilemma. But once you make that money and you're like, I'm staying here for free.
Right,
I'm making
100%,
money.
100%.
But keep an owner's closet, and I keep my own sheets and pillows and everything in there.
And you
just
lock it?
Personally for me, I lock it.
Oh, I always pick the lock on those just so I can see.
Oh, jeez, Mike.
You know why? Because he knows that's where they store the alcohol.
As long as there's bourbon, he's happy.
And the cool beach toys.
That is true, yeah.
That is cool.
I have the Solos, fire pit thing.
That's really cool.
Oh, I know.
Stored in there.
So you have the lake property still. You sold... What, you said 7 of your 8 other properties?
Yeah, I sold all of the other properties. I only just have the lake property now.
Gotcha. Are you planning on getting back into more? Or?
I mean, I would love to. It's just, it's time. It's the time I don't have. I would love to invest the money. I just don't have the time.
Gotcha. So
to manage it.
Which makes sense. You mentioned having a property management company that took over the mountain ones. Was
yes, and then it did not go very well.
Well, why didn't it go well?
Just because, you'll have, for instance, a guest. Every Friday night, I was always waiting for my phone to go off on Airbnb. They had a question all the time. So that's what you have to deal with. That takes your time. But, let's say, for instance, the hot tub's not heating. They're going to call an electrician out there. So it's going to be like $250 for someone to go and flip a breaker because it's just the breaker that flipped.
Or if you can't figure out how to work the keypad, that was me. Had to call her.
That was you. You had to call me.
Dude, I can't get into the...
Yeah, it was every Friday night. I'd just wait by the phone, all right, what are they calling about?
Yeah, that has to be a little bit annoying, right?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to go out, have a nice dinner, maybe have your family with you, and then it's like,
So it gets to be a lot. It can be very lucrative, but I think it's really hard to do it and have another full-time career at the same time.
Right. Well, what would you say? as far as so the property management company, what percentage were they charging you?
20%. So it's more for vacation properties. It's like 10 for long term.
And if you get more long term, they drop it to 8 typically.
Correct. Yeah.
So 20%.
I mean, in long term, listen, long term's fine. It's just you're not making as much money as you are in short term.
So long term to me, and the way I kind of always looked at it for new investors is long term is more you're building for retirement, where short term is more for cash flow.
Correct.
And that's how I've always looked at it. And that's when I work with literally every single person. I have probably 15, 20 loans going right now. Every single one's an investor. That's who I like to work with, either investors or $1 million plus properties. So that's my clientele. And a lot of the $1 million plus properties, they have investments on the side. So, but yeah, when I talked to like a new investor, I had Markel was on the podcast, and he's getting into like land development and building like duplexes, which I think is good. You can cash flow on them, but to me, anytime it's a long-term lease, it's you're looking at the equity portion, gaining appreciation, that type of thing. Whereas short-term, I like the short-term because I like cash flow.
I do too. It's more exciting.
It's more exciting. Yeah, there's more risk.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, lots of repairs, lots of maintenance.
On the short term?
Way more than long term.
So, like, what type of
furniture always getting broken, and just the maintaining the property because it's getting used a lot more than someone living in it long term.
Oh, that's true.
It's not like used as hard because like you might have 8 people staying there for vacation for a week.
Right.
Versus, just a normal family of 4.
So if you're making a plan for the long term and you're setting aside a maintenance budget, what percentage would you typically set aside for
I don't even remember, sadly, because my husband managed all of that side of it. Thank God, because I didn't have time. I was managing the people part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The complaints, like we need something.
So with the short term, is it much higher maintenance than cost?
It is, yes, because again, you have to have just think about, first of all, it's got to be furnished, right?
Correct.
Then you've got to have 2 sets of sheets for every bed.
Yes.
Everything you have to have doubles.
Gotcha.
Right? All of your kitchen utensils, everything's got to be there, and things like that get broken very easily.
Right.
Pots and pans, I was replacing those all the time. Glasses.
Right.
So it just adds up over time.
Moral of the story: plastic. Go plastic.
No, because they take those.
Oh.
Yeah.
They do.
They're stealing
every
stuff.
time. It probably Mike took them last time he stayed at my place.
They're at his house. If you want them back.
I know. Can I get those back?
I took the only Yeti you had.
I did have a Yeti there that went missing.
I didn't take the Yeti.
No, but people will take your cool, I have these blow-in rock mugs. You try to be cute about it when you get this vacation rental, and then you're people just take that as their souvenir, so they don't have to pay for it.
Right. That's
Ashley is super festive.
That I could see that.
I like to decorate.
Well, you would love my wife. She decorates for every holiday, which I love because it's very nice in our house, and I don't have to do anything to do it.
Not on. She's
well.
No, so it really is a good. I go back and forth on that, right? Because I also, as an investor, go back and forth on do I really want to do this? It is really lucrative, on the money perspective, if you get a good deal. We would always look for properties that would have a little something that most people wouldn't want, right?
Yes.
But you can't fix location, so location was always the prime key for us, find the right location. But if there's like you said, on the side of a mountain, well, that would freak out 50% of the buyers. Well, it didn't freak us out because we could make it nice enough and cute enough where there'd be enough people that wanted it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So we would look for stuff like that, stuff that wasn't decorated well, stuff that needed some cosmetic. We painted every house we ever had.
Right. Well,
refreshed it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, all of those things.
So if you.
Then you can get a really good deal on it.
When you were looking for stuff that other people didn't necessarily want, so it wasn't necessarily a structural issue or.
No, nothing like that. More cosmetic.
Cosmetic. How much would you spend per se, just rough estimate on? So I bought a house on the side of a mountain. How much did it cost you to furnish the house cosmetic-wise to get it to where the pictures look good so that people click on it?
Yeah. So we were very frugal. We'd actually go on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and purchase all of the furniture items that we needed. We normally were buying them already furnished. Some of them were already furnished, but we would take out pieces that weren't, nice. And then we would go Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and pack a U-Haul and take it up there. So we did it on a very shoestring budget.
Okay.
But I would say max with, doing all the exterior stuff that needed to be done too, like painting and landscaping and all of that, probably about 30 to 50,000 each on the 2 mountain properties that we had.
So did you hire a landscaper to come in, or did you guys kind of do that yourself?
No, we had to have someone there to do that,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever look at it as, okay, I'm going to have them come in because my time is worth more than what I have to pay them?
I wish I would have done that more than I did. So looking back in hindsight, I probably would have done that more, but we're just very hands-on.
Gotcha.
Both my husband and we like to put the work in, and it's really rewarding too when you do something yourself and you see that you transform something. So
absolutely.
We usually do it ourselves.
I just did that with my house. I repaired my entire sprinkler system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I moved into.
Don't you feel so rewarded though?
I do, and the grass looks awesome.
Like,
I cut it last night. The sprinkler system's from like 1978, I think.
Yeah.
And the people who lived there before never did anything. I actually stumbled upon the sprinkler system in the garage and turned it on, and there's like, psh, psh,
yeah.
psh. So I replaced all the sprinkler heads. I did it all myself, and I could have paid somebody. And that. So about a week into it, I said, my time might have been worth more than this.
I know, exactly. After the fact, that's when you say, well, I shouldn't have done that. But like for my husband, to be able to have anyone else do anything in our yard, like pine straw or mulch or anything, I have to kind of just go hire someone, have it done, and he comes home. And then I'm like, look, I tried to save your time, because he will not allow. He likes to do it himself.
Yeah, I like to do it myself too. My son, my 4-year-old, was out there pushing the lawnmower with me last night, and I used to have a lawn guy, and I was just like, I'm going to do this myself now. It's a stress reliever.
That's what he says too.
So with the rental properties, if you're talking to a first-time investor, say a 24-year-old kid comes to you and is like, hey, Ashley, I want to get into investment real estate. I want to build wealth through real estate. Which route should I go, Airbnb or long-term? What would you tell them?
First, buy a primary. That's what I would tell them.
Okay.
Right? So buy your house first.
Yep.
Maybe it needs some cosmetic things or some things that you need to fix it up, and then rent that one out and purchase another house. That's how it would start.
That's, I call that a house hack for a lot of people, especially like we have a good bit of clientele that's VA. So I'm like, okay, well, you're not putting anything down in like Fayetteville area. They have a base. Well, they're paying for their housing payment. So what they're doing is they're getting that, $1,700 a month is typically what it is. They buy their primary residence, get the $1,700 a month. It offsets a portion of their payment with interest rates right now. Typically, it's not the whole thing. And then they'll rent out the other 2 or 3 rooms to somebody else on base who is also getting $1,700 a month.
That's a great plan.
So they do that, and then I've had a couple that within 6 months is moving on to the next thing. Which I think is really good. Another one that I tell people is, house hack, buy a duplex. Live in one side. It's primary residence. It's 3.5% down. If you go FHA, there's a lot of times down payment assistance programs as well. You start building the equity, the appreciation, and you can rent the other side out.
Exactly.
So now that's paying for itself. And then 6 months to a year later, you can do the same thing on another property. And now if you do 2 duplexes, that's 2 doors to 4 doors.
Yeah.
Just like that. Boom.
Exactly. I'll probably do something like that for, my sons, like when they go to college.
Yeah.
Purchase a property for them that they have in their name, so they're building their credit, right? And then they can rent out the other spaces to other.
My dad and I did that with my brother. He's so you know Joe. He's my middle brother. Yeah. We have one that's 13 years younger. I call him my parents' oops baby. Shout out to Dom, but he's about to graduate this week. But we bought a house in Casey, South Carolina, which is Columbia, because he went there. And the house we got, it was actually 2 lots and it's zoned commercial. So I was thinking about this last night. I haven't told them yet. I was like, maybe we should tear it down and build like a mini apartment complex.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But I have to do some planning on that still. But yeah, I believe that building wealth through real estate is the number one way to build wealth.
Number one.
People might think we're biased, like you're a real estate agent, I'm a mortgage guy. But if you zoom out and look throughout history, even 2008 when everything crashed, by 2012, the house prices were higher than they were in 2008. So the people who were able to hang on, or like yourself, you bought 8 properties, exponential growth. And, like you said, primary residence first and then investment, because primary residence, you don't want to pay for somebody else's investment.
Exactly.
Who's that guy that famous guy, Grant Cardone.
Oh, yeah.
He's going around telling people not to buy primary residence.
No.
So I made a whole video about that's the dumbest thing ever.
It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
So apparently, since this is my podcast, if I insult him about his ideas, he's going after people and suing them.
Oh, wow.
And I always said no publicity is bad publicity. So Grant Cardone, you're an idiot. But at the end of the day, like, how can you tell somebody not to buy a primary residence and you're telling them to buy investment properties or cash producing?
Yeah.
And I somewhat understand, but the reason he's doing that is because he's in the business of renting to people, right?
Well, exactly.
Right. So it
pads his pockets. So of course he's going to.
100%.
And here's the thing, like, I'm not here because I'm a realtor and saying, yes, it's the best investment you can make. I invested long before I was a realtor.
What'd you do prior to?
That's what I did. I actually worked with Mike's wife, Melissa.
Oh, nice.
You know what's funny? I have Bayada notebook still here. Bayada
Shout out to Bayada.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bayada. No, taught me a ton, but I worked there for 7 years. Prior to that, I was a case manager with developmental disabilities.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How long have you been a realtor?
I have been 6.5 years.
6.5 years. So are you a realtor that likes the word realtor or realtor?
It cannot be 3 syllables. It's realtor.
I try to tell people this all the time. Yeah. It's like a thing in the industry.
It's not realtor.
Right. Well, a lot of people say that.
I know they do, and that was like the first thing in our pre-licensing class. He was like, first thing you're going to learn, this is how it's pronounced.
Realtor.
And he wrote it on the board, yeah.
I try to tell people in mortgage, I tell the company all the time, because if that is a thing, like pronounce it correctly.
Yes.
And people are like, why are you saying it like that?
You cannot pronounce your own title correctly. There's
it's
a problem.
realtor, exactly.
Yes.
What made you get into real estate?
So actually it was my husband. So my husband was really interested in just investing. We barely had anything, okay? I was making like literally less than $30,000 a year doing social work. And he was like, I just want to start building wealth through real estate and investing. And it was right when the crash was happening, so it made sense. So we bought 3 foreclosures over the next 2-3 years.
Okay.
So it was really him wanting to do that and just kind of build that nest egg so that we would have something for our kids in college and that kind of thing's how it started. And then it grew from there.
So what's he do?
He is a professional golf instructor.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Everybody really is more interested in his job than mine. So.
You should take lessons, Mike. I'm just kidding. I'm terrible. And Mike will tell you that. So you had the 8 properties. You sold them. And
we didn't have them all at one time.
So
Let's be very total. Clear on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started out. I bought my first property. We bought it. I was 21. Mark was 24. So we were really young, but we wanted to invest, early. So we bought that property, and then we just always would kind of like upgrade and build on that. And then we did the mountain properties, and then there was an opportunity. We had 1 mountain property. There was an opportunity to buy the next mountain property. And we ended up rolling one of those as a 1031 exchange, which is a great option too, into the lake property. And I probably would sell the lake property. If anybody's looking for a lake property, I might sell it. Might be willing to.
Why?
But I need to find something to like 1031 it into because I just don't want to pay those capital gains.
Have you thought about like any type of development or something along those lines?
I don't know what I want to do with it yet. I think that's why I haven't sold it.
Gotcha.
I got to find what I want to invest it in before I sell it.
So what made you sell the other properties that, whether it was the short term or the long term?
Just basically we were in a really good market at the time, and that's when the Airbnb short-term rental market was going crazy.
Right.
Like we got into it 7 years ago. It wasn't as popular. It wasn't as oversaturated. I felt like after COVID, because they could work from anywhere. So our place was booked, solid book. We couldn't even get a day in.
Right.
So it got really hard on staff because cleaning companies and all of these people could not get people to come to work because they were getting the stipends.
Right.
So they would not come to work. So we had a hard time with the maintenance of it. And again, it was just a lot for me to carry. So that's why we sold one of them. And then the second one, again, it was just a hot time in the market.
Right.
And the first one we sold, the mountain house on Apsky Mountain, we had 10 offers on that property.
Wow.
And then the one that we sold in Boone, we had 5 offers on that one.
That's wild.
Way above ask. So it was like, it was a good time to sell it and cash in. Yeah. Right. And we kind of were in our minds thinking we want to upgrade to something else. We knew what we wanted different in the next property. We just haven't found it yet.
Gotcha. So what are you looking for? that's different?
Well, like the last mountain house we had a gravel road, very steep, like curvy going up to it. It was a little difficult to get to. And they had like an unprecedented, crazy winter in Boone the last year that we had it.
Right.
And it was just people get stuck. It was terrible. I mean, we had like chains for people's tires. And we couldn't, even the plow trucks got stuck.
Wow.
So it was like, okay, like I cannot do this all the time. I started just like blocking it out in January. I'm just going to block it.
Right.
Just because I can't deal with the people getting stuck and the calls and it just got to be a lot to manage.
So they would call you and be like, "Hey, I'm stuck."
Yeah. Yeah, they would call. I'm like, okay, well we prepare them for that. Like it has in there like the inclement weather thing. Like
you should say, "Don't call us if you get stuck. Call a tow truck."
Call a tow truck, and then the tow truck will get stuck and call us. You know, it's like, what do you do?
So, you're calling me. I don't even have a tow truck.
Yeah, we're just like, so now when I look at mountain houses, like I'm like, pave roads only. They have to be maintained.
Yeah.
Because these were privately maintained, so we had to replace the gravel every year. I mean, it was a cool place because it was like way back in the woods, super private.
I think you should get an investment property in Kiowa.
How?
Yes.
You know, you can't.
I can go use it and play golf.
This is my personal opinion. I've tried for years to invest in a beach property. Like that's where we started in our mindset that we wanted to go. But just by the time you pay the taxes and the insurance on those properties, and the maintenance, and you usually have to use property management companies in those particular places. You're like in the hole every month.
And they're charging 25 to 30% at the beach.
Yes, they are.
That's not 20%.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I don't have that much money yet.
Yeah, well, those are probably, if they're doing short-term rentals with the beach properties, depending on where it's at, those are probably like long-term. It's almost similar to like if you're renting out.
They've had it for a long time. Exactly.
Right. Long time, or
buying one now is really difficult to make any kind of money on it.
And the people who are buying them probably need the write-off. It's not for cash flow. Zombie company type of thing where you're losing money to pay less taxes.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's really interesting. So you would go for another mountain property
over a beach property all day.
So if you had your perfect pick of your next investment, what would it be?
It'd be a mountain house.
Mountain house.
Sure.
But what type of mountain house? Not with gravel roads.
Has to be a log cabin. Has to.
Log cabin, paved.
Yes, because I want to feel like I'm in the mountains when I'm in a mountain house.
And everybody else does too.
Yep.
That's really cool. So what?
And definitely with a view.
A view.
And a hot tub.
And a hot tub. You gotta have it.
Gotta have it.
Hot tub. Make sure the deck is definitely supported for the hot tub. I saw a story about how one fell through a deck the other day. Yeah.
We had to have a whole deck built for the hot tub to put the hot tub because our deck wasn't wide enough. So we had a whole extension built to put it on there.
That's cool. So you said it was on the side of a mountain, one of them?
Yeah.
Like overlooking, like was it a steep drop or?
It was, yeah.
It's pretty steep.
It's pretty steep.
When you would go down to it, your stairs were like this, then it would flatten out, and then it was like, shoom.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what's super cool? It backed up to Tweetsie Railroad property. Like our property line was backed up to theirs. You could see the smoke from the train and hear the train whenever it was really cool.
That is neat.
I sat out there one night. I may have had a couple of beverages, and I looked at Melissa. I was like, God, what if this thing falls down the mountain? She's like, why would you say that? I was like, I don't know. That's just how my brain works. Like, look, we're on the side of the mountain.
Trust me, we had that foundation, like, we had it all done, like, extra security. So
I trusted you.
I'm afraid of heights. So
it wasn't really scary about where the house was. It was more scary about the road.
Yeah.
Because there was a main road.
Somebody drove off down in there and hit you.
Yeah, main road, and it just had like a retaining wall kind of holding it. So
someone drove off it?
No. That's what we were worried about.
But you know what it looked like? So when you drove up, you couldn't see the house. The house was like below. And so when you drove up, people thought it was a lookout point. That's what it looked like, our parking area.
That's
so
interesting.
People would just park and like be looking at them like, that's our parking place. But it was really, the views were awesome there.
That's really cool.
It was. You get your rappelling gear out just to get to the house.
Yeah.
Belay on.
Someone said they wanted a pulley system like for groceries.
That's what I was complaining about. God.
Yeah.
You know, getting all the luggage and all the groceries down there. I was like, whoo.
You get a workout.
Isn't that what kids are for?
At this point in time, they were not very big.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they would be perfect now.
Yet. Mine aren't big enough
Too bad it's gone. Sold it.
It's all right.
So you also have a team of real estate agents, 5.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for in a real estate agent?
Someone who is completely a self-starter. Like, you have to be self-motivated. That is the biggest thing to be successful in real estate.
Okay.
I'm not looking for someone who wants to just come in and learn and be told what to do. And I'm not trying to create another one of me. Like, that would never be my goal. I like people that come in and they have that entrepreneurial mindset.
Absolutely. So if somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, what's the training look like? What's this look like? What's that look like? Are you like, wrong company?
Yeah.
But
probably wrong team.
Wrong team.
No, I love sharing though.
Right.
I'm like an open book. I love sharing with other agents, telling them what's worked for me. It might not work for them. I mean, it's just it depends on their market, their their area, their expertise, what they want to do with it. But I'm always happy to share. I'm not one of those ones that's going to like handhold and tell you that you do this many open houses, do this many phone calls. That's not the way I operate.
And you're not going to track how many calls they're doing.
Not at all. I've never tracked mine. Why would I track theirs?
So
I was like, I actually had to look up. I was like, better look at my numbers in case he asks me, because I'm not. I don't care about that. Like, I'm not a numbers person.
Right.
But I was like, he might ask me that, and I don't even know, because it's not like the people are important to me.
Right. So I don't typically ask about numbers on the show. I will ask when it comes to like investment properties and how much money people make. I do ask those questions, and don't look for exact. And the reason for it is because I want like the first time investor who's never done a property, maybe doesn't even own a primary home, to understand like what do I need to do to get into building wealth through real estate. Because you see like the Bigger Pockets podcast, you see a lot of these HGTV shows, and now what's that new one, Magnolia Network, with Chip and Joanna Gaines, where they're doing all of that. And people are very interested in making money. You have, I was just talking about Grant Cardone, but there's Robert Kiyosaki. There's a lot of people who talk about rental properties, but I don't know if they always tell you the pitfalls of it, tell you the cost, tell you how much money can be lost. I probably just told a lot of the pitfalls, didn't I? Yeah, which is good. I think you need to. I think there needs to be a realistic expectation.
It's not as easy as it looks.
No, and it's not. I call it mailbox money, but it's not truly mailbox money. Yeah. I joke around and like mailbox money, but what it really is it's work. It
is a lot of work. Every time we go to our place now, it's like, at first you're excited, right? Because you're decorating it, you're making it how you want it.
Exactly.
But then when you go, it's like every time we have maintenance.
Right.
Like, I'm going to my lake house this weekend because we're going to Zach Bryan concert in Greenville. And so we're going to stay there for the weekend, but I already have a list of things I have to repair when we get there.
Right. Well, and just to let everybody in on a secret, typically if you're going to make money and good investments, there's typically not any way you're going to do it without either paying somebody or working hard.
That's correct.
And that's
you got to be willing to put the work in.
Absolutely. And I think with investment properties, especially for like a younger investor, somebody who hasn't had the experience, elbow grease is the number one way to increase those margins.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that if you're wanting to start out in investing, and first of all, I'd say primary residence like we talked about, but if you're looking at an investment property, I would say 100% you have to be willing to manage it yourself.
Correct.
You got to be able to do the work, get you a handyman contact, whatever you need, but you've got to be willing to like put in the work and manage the property, because that money is going to go right out the door if you hire a property management company. No offense to my property managers out there, but if it's your first one, you really need to do it yourself. And you learn so much. Like, you learn the pitfalls. You learn where did I lose money that time that I need to pay attention to in the next one.
We had Ben and I bought a property in Cornelius, and I kicked myself. You know where 131 Main is?
Yes. It's my favorite restaurant.
You know those townhomes back there? If you could take a right there and right on the left. Yeah. So we bought an investment property up there. I wish we would have hung on to it. We made really good money off of it, but we sold it a little bit too soon. It was before the 2020 boom, 2020 through 2022. But so we bought that property, and funny story, like, talk about a nightmare of a scenario. It's a long-term investment property. It's a 3-story townhouse, beautiful townhome. And we close on it. We get a lease signed, and we were using Nick Amini, and rest in peace to Nick. He passed away of cancer, unfortunately, but we were using him as the property manager. And so he gets the lease agreement signed, which I was kind of happy that we had the property manager, because I wouldn't have known where to start with the lease and background checks and credit checks and all of that. but we handled a lot of the maintenance stuff ourselves. And we had a handyman, Kevin Thanem, who's a good friend of mine now. He actually moved to Florida and left me to manage my own properties now. But as the day before the person doing the lease was supposed to move in, the neighbor, this was coming out of 2008 now, it was probably like 2011, 2012, kept his car hooked up to the motorcycle battery, took his dogs, his entire family out because he was trying to sell his motorcycle and couldn't sell it. And so he left it charging in the garage. The battery blew up, started a fire, and burnt the townhouse next door down and caused a lot of water and smoke damage. Thank God for firewalls. So luckily enough, we had just gotten the lease agreement signed, so we got to claim loss of income. So we got paid for all those months.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that was our first investment property. And we worked at Quicken Loans, which is now Rocket Mortgage at the time. And I was sitting in, it was a big old room, and I was sitting in the corner, and up in the other, they have a TV up there. And we had literally just closed that, maybe the day before, went and grabbed lunch and looked at the property again because, first property, blah, blah, blah. I look up, and there's helicopters flying over, and there's this big fire going, and it was our property. And that's how we found out about it. And then I looked at my cell phone, and it was going nuts. So I tell people all the time, nothing good comes easy.
That's so true.
That was so at the time I had the mindset of, oh my God, I have such bad luck. But looking back on it,
it's just normal day in investing.
It's normal day in investing. And looking back on it, we got all that lost rental income.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting a lady by the name of Kim who moved into the house, and she stayed there for 2 years and kept it in better condition than we did.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we got the loss of income. We got everything repaired, all new paint. There wasn't any fire damage because the firewall did a really good job. But we did really well on it. And we actually used that to start another business, which I had just met my wife at the time we were dating, and we started Charlotte Brewery Tours. So we used that money to start that up. We ended up selling that, and then that kind of relayed us into starting a mortgage company. So it all kind of worked out, and now we're back up to 3 investment properties. Ben and I are, and Mike's a part of one of them. So yeah, it's
Do you like investing with people? That's the one hurdle that I have is I don't feel like I want to invest with people.
Why?
Is that weird? I don't know. My husband and I have always just to do it ourselves, and both of my brothers also invest in real estate, but I've just never wanted to mix family and investing. And
so I'm weird. So Ben and I were college roommates. And he actually owes me 10% of everything he ever makes in mortgage because we had graduated. I came to Charlotte because my parents had just moved here from upstate New York and dragged Joe with them. Joe did not want to come. And then Dominic was so young that he had no choice. He was in first grade or something, or fourth grade. So I called Ben and I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm in a swimming pool. I said, okay. I need you to come to Charlotte because there's jobs here in this thing called the mortgage industry. And I had no clue what it was at the time. So he got it up here. And then we as we got to know mortgage, I'm like, we should invest. So we invested together. Every business I own, to answer your question, is with multiple people. So I'm going to give you the pros and the cons. So the pros are you have more people, so you can get more things done quicker. We can grow quicker. We can scale quicker. But then there's also the inner workings of a relationship, right? So Mike and I would say we're pretty good friends outside of this. We text about stupid stuff and, play golf together sometimes.
That's all he texts about.
Golf? Yeah.
Stupid stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's true.
I see that.
Ben and I were best friends. We were college roommates. My brother runs our entire sales team.
You don't ever worry about it? You've never had rifts in your relationship because of it?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah?
But
and you get over it?
He does. I don't.
I get over it pretty quick.
He's still holding a grudge over there.
I get over
No,
things.
I don't have any grudges.
So I get over things pretty quickly. At the end of the day, the way I like to set things up is as a team, and we all have our jobs to do. And you have to have the understanding of, so everybody who knows me knows that there's no business versus personal. It's all one to me. And I tell people all the time, when it comes to work-life balance, there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's life, and work and life have to fit.
Yeah.
The balance has to fit somewhere in there. So there's nights last night, I was calling clients until 9 o'clock at night because it's easier for them to answer the phone at night.
Yeah.
And we have 10 loans that are supposed to close in the next 2 weeks, and I have to update them and do what I have to do.
Yeah.
And then there's some days today we're doing the podcast in the morning, and this is more fun to me than work.
Yeah.
So, but as far as the relationship piece is concerned, I just, You have to have so when Joe was coming to work for me, that's my brother, my younger brother, he ran a team of 100 people at Home Point Financial, which was the second largest mortgage company. They sold, and he stayed there for a little bit and, kind of wound them down and that type of thing. And he was one of the last people before everybody was out. And I was recruiting him for 2 years, and he didn't come. But when he did come to work with us, we sat at this table at our old office, which was in the front room, and had a conversation. He's like, if something else comes up and it's X, Y, and Z opportunity, I'm going to take it. Because at that point, it was just me and Ben. It wasn't everything that you saw today. So we set clear expectations up front about what is expected, what we want to do, and so on and so forth. So I think if you set the clear expectations of what we're looking for, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? But, I mean, some people will take it personal if, say you hire your brother or you get into a business with your brother and you say, hey, you're going to do the maintenance on the property. I'm going to do exterior maintenance. We're going to do interior maintenance. And then you go up there and that exterior maintenance isn't to your standard. You may take that personal and be like, man, he's taking advantage of us because we got into this together. He needs to carry his end of the slack. If you learn to manage that expectation and not have expectations of other people, but are able to have a conversation with them about what you expect as part of the business, they're either going to raise their standard or it's not going to work out. And
I'd just rather not deal with any of that. I'm more like, I'm a control freak, I think. I want to just control that.
OCD.
Well, I don't know.
I'm like, I don't want to have to worry if, who's doing what. I'll just do it all.
I don't know if you are, though, because if you have a real estate team and you're not checking their calls and looking at their numbers, are you?
Because they run their own business. That's kind of our mindset, right? It's like.
But does it make you money if they close a deal?
Yeah, but we have a very different collaborative. It's like we have a really unique the way that our team works. I'm not like they're just really making money off them.
Gotcha.
You know how a lot of team leaders will take 40% or something crazy. It's not that way. I barely have anything. It basically just covers my time.
Gotcha.
And barely that. But we really work collaboratively. It's more about having people that, if I'm on vacation, then they can fill in and I'll fill in for them.
Right.
So it's we run our businesses that way.
Gotcha.
We're all independent business owners and we collaborate.
That makes sense.
So it's not your typical pyramid kind of.
So from starting a business and investment properties and stuff together, and I'll let Mike speak on this as well. Mike and I knew each other from golf because I live in River Hills and we golfed together. He cheated and won a match against me. And he didn't cheat in the golf sense of cheating. He cheated because he said every time one of us gets a birdie, we have to shotgun a beer.
I was the only one making birdies.
Right. So he had Miller Lite and I had Pernicious, which is an IPA.
Yes, you can't.
And it was him and Clay versus me and Ben, and it was not good. But we were beating him, and that's why he had to cheat. But he won the match barely. Couldn't see the ball by the time I got to the 18th hole. And I typically, and he can vouch for this, I typically don't drink when I golf. I just like to go out and golf. So yeah, he cheated. But I would say the balancing, the OCD piece that you mentioned, you like to do it yourself. If you like to do things yourself and not have to worry about whether it's other people's feelings, their perceptions, their expectations, splitting up of the money, sure, it's probably not smart to get into business with family or friends. Now,
listen, I've done enough real estate deals with family and friends. So, it's always that fine
I lost
line.
a friend over this business.
Yeah, and I'm just not willing to. That relationship's way more important to me.
So I look at it like this. The reason I lost the relationship was because that friend accused us of trying to take advantage of him, and which was just not true. We were making less than $1,000 on his loan.
Yeah.
Which doesn't even recover my operational cost.
Yeah.
So long story short, won an auction on a website to bid for a property without talking to us prior to. It was a foreclosure auction or something. He asked us if he could do the deal. We said, sure, but it's going to have to be in the business name. It's going to have to be commercial residential because we can't use your income because he has other properties and we haven't underwritten it and you need to close in 16 days. So the only way for us to get this done is to go this way.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't understand that on those deals, they escrow 3 months of your payment because it's commercial residential. You don't have to, but it was. And he thought we were overcharging him on closing costs when it was actually his payment. And he sent me this long text message about how, we're never doing, and this was like the 4th deal I've done for him.
Wow.
We're never doing business together again, because he didn't understand it. And I was actually golfing with Mike. It was a Sunday. And I was like, I'm going to have to look at it on Monday. I'll get back to you. And then on Monday, he sent me a message not to speak to him.
Wow. Okay.
So I said, F you, you're dead to me. But to me, that's not losing a friend. That's losing somebody who doesn't have a very high opinion of you.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you're not
like, if you can question my integrity at this point in the relationship, right?
Well, and we were in each other's weddings. We went to college together. We've known each other for 16 years.
So he knew you. He should know better.
He knew me, but obviously he didn't know me as well as he thought.
Yeah.
And then if he did know me and he thought those things about me, I don't want to be his friend anyways, right? Like, I don't want that in my life.
We have all kinds of conversations here today.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We get into like the depths of friendships and relationships.
Well, it comes down to friends in business, and it can be complicated.
Yeah, it can be.
But so that's the negative. So what the positive is you have people that you really trust that are in your corner, right?
Yeah.
So like I know if I call Mike or I call Ben or I call Eric or Joe or because there's 5 equity partners here now.
Yeah.
Or on the property side, like we all know our roles, right? So my role is different than what Mike's role is. Than what
Mike's
Russ
is just to go hang out there.
No.
Absolutely
not. I am extremely hard on Mike. Mike's our number 2.
I'm really hard on Mike. Do you see?
Yes, I do. I hold Mike to a very high standard because he's very talented. But Mike's our number 2 in this company, and if something, and I'm still producing and like kind of like acting as like CEO. I don't think I should have that title quite yet. We aren't mature enough for that, but we're building, and we got a good bit of people, and we got more salespeople. We have 5 more starting next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're growing pretty quickly, and if something goes wrong here, Mike gets
it's my fault.
Yep.
It is Mike's fault.
Always.
It's like being married.
But it's the same thing with the property.
You can't get away from it, even at work.
It's with the properties company as well, right? So like Mike's job is to find dilapidated properties. That's what I like to do. I had this idea. Hey, let's fix up these dilapidated properties, almost like the BRRRR method. I don't know if you ever heard that. Buy, rehab, refinance, rent, refinance, repeat. So it's very similar to that, except with dilapidated properties, and we're doing room rentals. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so
my mom rents to contract nurses as well. She does that.
It's great.
Yeah.
Everyone I know, typically very responsible people. They aren't going to tear up the house.
Exactly. They're professionals. You know, they're there on work. So.
They work. But his job is to find dilapidated properties, and then we have Russell.
So you're like side realtor too.
You're gonna help me.
Kind of. So we're going to like the city and getting their tear down list and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So you can pick up properties for like $10,000.
Okay, maybe I'll hire you to look for me too.
Super expensive.
But the positives are you bring more people in and you have more hands that can help. So you have less that you have to do yourself, because think about it. Like if you're managing a property, you're having to make sure that the cleaners are going out there. You're having to make sure it's rented out. You have to make sure it's priced right and it's getting enough views here and the 5-star review. That's a lot to do.
Yeah.
Plus maintenance and upkeep and handymen, and so spread that work out now amongst 4 people. You can get a lot more done, so you can scale a little bit more.
Yeah.
And a little bit quicker. Own more properties.
If only I wasn't a control freak, I did actually own one property with family one time. My first one, really, it was a building in Montreal, but it was like a triplex building. But we were just purely financially invested in it. We didn't do anything management with the property. Right. So,
yeah. So the downside is you could lose friendships. You could lose. There's a lot of hard feelings, especially when money gets involved. People get weird. But clearly define it up front. And then the flip side is you have people you trust that you're working with every single day. And I always tell, like Joe Binfry, who's like my, I call him my loan partner, but like in an admin role, talks to clients. Like when I'm doing this, if anyone reaches out to me, he's going to get the email and he's going to be able to respond right away to keep that client service where we want it. He went to college with me, playing the same college football team with me. So we're in a place where you really trust each other, and they know me. So like when Ben gets yelled at this morning, he understands, okay, I'm getting yelled at because of this, right? Which I don't yell at my team, just Ben. He founded the company with me. So, but yeah, it's just, I wouldn't want to do it with anybody but people that I like, if that makes sense. But I also understand that there's the flip side to it where the relationship could go sour. But I look at it as if the relationship goes sour and we can't repair this relationship, then was it really a good relationship anyways? That's true. So I guess that's the question. What do you think, Mike?
I don't know yet. We're just getting started on this thing. So I'm pretty excited about
properties. What about here? You're in a business here. Your equity.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's like we said this morning, Rome wasn't built in a day. So it's
you're in the hardest part right now.
Right. You know, you really find out how good your team is and how bought in your team is for the future of the business, and that's really kind of where you separate the men from the boys. And you know, if they're not here for the long haul, then they were not meant to be on the team. That's all it is.
Well, what do you think about working with friends?
Oh, I think about the Garth Brooks song, but yeah, I mean, I think friends.
Sing it for me. I don't know what you're talking about. What's the words?
We're not going down that path. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, except for you.
Do you not listen to country music?
I do.
Okay.
I know Lightning Road.
No. Did you go to Kenny Chesney?
No.
Oh. Bummer.
I got friends in low places, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to. But no, I think
that's Garth Brooks.
What? Oh my gosh! I can't. We need to cut. We need to cut this
podcast. That's over with. Jesus.
I didn't realize that was Garth
my
Brooks.
Goodness.
I have nothing for you.
I have silence in the room.
Silence. It did.
Let's have a moment of silence for Garth Brooks.
Shout out to Garth Brooks. Sorry, Garth. We're gonna educate the guy. But no, I enjoy that side of the business more because I know more about it. You know, as far as construction and stuff like that. So I look forward to it being a blast and, you know, just growing and growing and growing. But we got to do it the smart way.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's exciting. There's
always
a lot of good.
Overestimate what it's going to cost you, right?
Right. Yeah. Put that buffer in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we brought a contractor partner in, so we're getting things at cost now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're excited
That'll help
about
a lot.
That's our goal is, you know, that's why I went with 4. So we have Ben, he is really good with numbers.
I hope so. I mean, that's his job.
Right. He's really good with numbers. We have Mike, who's really good at finding properties. We have Russell, who's really good at, you know, as far as a contractor is concerned, at getting the job done at cost, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
So that, and then you have me, who ideas, like creativity ideas. I can kind of jump in and help on a little bit of all of that as well. So yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll see what happens. We'll let you know how it goes. We'll have you back on the podcast and we'll tell you all about how it's going. So we'll know in 3 to 4 months whether or not it's good or bad.
Yeah.
So
hopefully no one burns it down, again.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we have insurance at that point, we'll just take it.
It doesn't matter. You'll just take it.
We'll just take it.
I had, whenever I bought the log cabin that you stayed in, we had just gotten it all ready, and we were doing a bathroom renovation in the primary bath, and it was upstairs, and the contractor had left, and some pipes or whatever from the construction upstairs downstairs loosened.
Right.
The entire place flooded. We only had it a month. The entire place flooded.
Wow.
So we had to do the whole restoration thing. It flooded all the way down into the basement. It was
we had that happen.
The floors were done. What'd you say?
Our pipes in River Hills blew and
same. Mine did too. So and the guy that came in here, he goes, "Man, I'm in here 5 days a week doing this right here."
Yeah.
And the restoration people said the same thing. They're always in this.
It's expensive for restoration too.
It really is.
It's like those machines, they charge per day.
Yeah.
If you look at thank God we had insurance on it, because
exactly,
it ruined all of our hardwoods. It was terrible.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Have it all redone.
At least it was all brand new afterwards.
That's right.
So that's the positive. You got to always look at positive. So, anything you want to leave anybody with as far as suggestions, tips, whether it's becoming a real estate agent, an investor, any final thoughts?
I think it's just sometimes it can get overwhelming just because you're thinking it's too big, right? You're thinking I want to have a duplex and share it, have someone rent the side, and it's hard to find a duplex. There's not a lot of them.
Not.
If you look, there's 2 in Charlotte right now. So I think just starting small, again, buy your primary residence. You will never, you will always be at an advantage if you invest in real estate. Everybody needs a place to live.
Right.
And housing prices continue to go up. So
when people can continue to move here too. I mean,
correct.
It's a
we have
hot
an inventory
market.
issue, so you're going to gain the equity.
Booming. It is just booming. It's crazy. Multiple offers again.
Yeah.
Add that again. even with these interest rates.
Which everyone's complaining about the Fed not lowering them, but it's probably a good thing because if they lower them, then more people want to buy, and then it's going to go crazy. But the other flip side argument to that too is if you lower them, more people are going to sell, so you'll create more inventory. But how many more people are going to want to buy than sell?
Yeah,
and because the issue we have is a housing shortage.
Exactly.
Period. There's a housing shortage. So
I had a house in Charlotte, South Charlotte, list for $875, and the offer that we ended up going with was 1.1.
How many square feet was it?
It was like 3,400 square feet.
Did they buy that in cash?
Yes, they did.
Were they from Long Island?
No, they were not.
That's what I'm seeing a lot.
There's a lot of people moving from up north.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. 50% of all your money's gone up there in taxes, just like that. Boom. And if you can come down here, buy a house in cash, you have no housing payment, your taxes are lower.
Exactly.
You probably have a better work-life balance as far as that's
2.5 hours from the beach, 2 hours from the mountains. It's like no-brainer.
Right, and you don't have to work as hard.
That's right.
I have my son's godmother lives on Long Island, and she has a very nice house, but it's just so expensive there compared to here. Like for her house, she could buy a house that's double the size of the one I currently live in here. It's absolutely wild. So, yeah, but we appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll have you again. Great tips. I love the fact that you gave some insight into like some of the pitfalls versus Airbnb versus long-term rentals. Yeah, so thank you. And to everybody watching, thank you. Go ahead and bang the red subscribe button, turn on notifications. Follow me at MTG Man Nick, and where can they find you?
You can find me at Ashley LaPointe on Facebook, just my personal account because I like to keep it personal. And then on Instagram at The Southern Agents.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. And that's all. We're out. Thanks. Peace. That was fun.
That was fun. I have an inspection going on. Inspector's test.